Can the worst possible Pikachu beat the entire game of Pokemon Yellow on 0 DVs, minimum battles, and with no TMs? In the anime, Pikachu can beat just about anything. It uses sprinklers to beat Brock and agility to beat Lieutenant Surge. It even beats the Rhydon on Blaine's team by striking it with Thunderbolt on the nose for some reason. But this isn't the anime. Pikachu doesn't have plot armor. We're gonna have to find a legitimate way to beat the entire game on these settings. How would this even be possible? Well, in Gen 1, Pikachu has one secret weapon: Surf. Surfing Pikachu was legitimately available to any owner of Pokemon Stadium 1, and I mean, it's even in the intro animation to Pokemon Yellow. So I don't even consider Surf to be a TM. But even with Surf, will it be enough for Pikachu to beat the entire game on hardcore settings? Or is this going to be an absolute nightmare? There's only one way to find out. Let's get into it. So longtime viewers of the channel will know that this isn't the first run that we've done with a Pikachu. Last time we did the Great Pikachu Race, and the loser, Sparky, ended up getting involved into a Raichu and put into the daycare for eternity, so we're gonna name our rival Sparky. We can go outside and see Professor Oak do actually what he's supposed to do for once: catch a Pikachu that we can now have as our starting Pokemon. And our Pikachu is completely standard on 0 DVs. The only real change is that we've given it Surf right here at the beginning of the game, and Surf is a pretty massive addition at this point. Now, I'm also going to plan to use a lot of Double Team in this run, and I know a lot of people don't like Double Team, but if a Pokemon like Pikachu is even going to have a shot at getting through on 0 DVs, minimum battles, and no TMs, Double Team's going to have to be the play most of the time. So Pikachu it is. Now, before you get angry, before you click off, just understand you're going to get a great chance to see why you shouldn't use Double Team in solo challenges if you just watch this one all the way to the end. But for now, we have Surf, and Surf is actually going to be our strongest attacking move in most of the early game, because in spite of the fact that we have a same type attack bonus on Thundershock, the effective damage output is much higher on Surf. So here against Rival 1, I'm just going to use Surf a couple times, and it turns out to be a 2-hit KO with a critical hit, but I'll take it. And with Rival 1 going down, we can now make our way to Viridian Forest, where we have one bug catcher. Now we only have this one required battle in Viridian Forest, the bug catcher with a Caterpie that's level 10. Fortunately, even though it could knock us out, Surf is strong enough to knock it out in 4 hits, and we get through that without any trouble. And now it's gonna be time to get on to Brock and just see how this goes. Will Surf be a one-hit? So typically Brock would be a major wall for a Pikachu, but with Surf being 4 times super effective, we one-shot the Geodude. And now it's just a question, will we one-shot the Onix? Well, it goes for Bide, and it gives us the perfect setup, so we knock it out in a single hit. And just like that, we take Brock down, and the single major challenge in the early game is done, right? Well, not so fast. The first Lass on Route 3 is an absolute nightmare for Pikachu, because the Rattata hits hard and the Nidoran male hits hard. I'm trying to use Thunder Wave in order to paralyze these Pokemon, and hopefully get enough turns without them hitting me to be able to knock them out. I finally managed to get it, but it took me 3 resets. And anytime these first few trainers in this section give you trouble, you know that it's going to be hard against the Super Nerd at the end of Mount Moon and Team Rocket. This Super Nerd loves to disable your moves, and we can get a lot of screeches from this Voltorb, lowering our defense, meaning that when we do get to the very bulky coughing at the end, we can still get knocked out. I finally managed to get a run where I'm all the way to the coughing and it's paralyzed just to get knocked out. Now you might be saying, it's obvious, just use the rare candy here, but there's a reason why I try to put off rare candies as long as possible. Every rare candy we use in the early game is one less rare candy that we have at the end of the game when it takes a lot more experience to level up. But in this case, I can't see any other possible way to get through this fight. So I use the rare candy, and even with one additional level, it's not like it makes a huge difference, but level 13 is a damage rounding threshold, meaning our attacks should do a little bit more, and the extra defense boost should mean that we take a little bit less damage. But here, it still requires getting a couple of lucky misses from the coughing to finally beat it and level up to level 14. So I'm gonna take the Dome Fossil and I'm gonna try Jesse and James. Bide is incredibly strong at this point in the game, given that it's the same type move for Meowth. But let's try this. Here against the Ekans, I'm going to start by paralyzing it and then using Surf in order to try to knock it out as quickly as possible, but it still takes multiple hits and Wrap knocks me out on the first attempt. We're still one level away from getting Double Team, so that's not an option. We've already used the rare candy, so we just have to hope to get through with enough health. The other thing I'm hoping for is for Meowth to just use Growl as it did in the second attempt, and Meowth does give us enough experience to get to level 15. That means we get Double Team, and now we have a chance against the coughing. I set up a few Double Teams, and then use Surf to take it down in spite of being poisoned. So we are sitting on 21 resets to get through Mount Moon, but we have at least managed to progress in the game, so let's go ahead and take on Rival 2. This shouldn't be a terrible fight, I don't think, because we have a type advantage against the Spearow, and we have Surf for Sandshrew, but it remains to be seen. So here we get a Growl from the Spearow, and then I'm going to start setting up my Double Teams, but we can see Fury Attack did a ton of damage. Pikachu doesn't really have any defense, so the only way to survive in these tough fights is by using Double Team. Here, we are able to knock out the Spearow, but then we get knocked out by the Sandshrew in spite of having all the Double Teams set up. Here on the second attempt, I go ahead and paralyze the Spearow. I'm going to once again go into Double Team. Peck is great, I want that to be the only attacking move to hit me, and fortunately it uses Peck a couple times. We also get a Growl, but that's fine. We're just going to use Surf for the rest of this battle. Surf is actually a 2-hit KO on the Sandshrew though, because we don't have great special. We do knock out the Rattata in 1 hit, but then it's a 3-hit KO, possibly a 4-hit KO, right here on the Eevee. But we just managed to get through, and hey, we'll take it. But that doesn't give me a lot of confidence for Misty, because if we get hit by Bubble Beam, we probably just get knocked out. I'm gonna at least try it, but let's see how this goes. So against Misty's Staryu, I decided to lead off with Thunder Wave to paralyze it, but man, that Water Gun did a lot of damage, over half health, and we can't even set up the Double Teams here in time in order to knock it out. I went into this fight thinking that this would be an absolute cakewalk. I mean, Double Team plus Thunder Shock, we've got a type advantage. Like, why would Pikachu ever lose to Misty? Well, it turns out that it is possible to lose to Misty, because even with all the Double Teams set up, she's still going to hit you about 1 in 4 times. And when Pikachu is a 3-hit KO from the Staryu, this is basically impossible. It takes too many turns to knock these Pokemon out with Thunder Shock at our current level, and they're going to land hits just a little too much. In this one, I finally managed to set up all the Double Teams, and we're going to get through Staryu here, but now we've got Starmie, and we really need it to miss? So I'm setting up Thunder Shock, but a single Bubble Beam knocks me out. This is quite possibly the first time in this entire series that I can remember at least that we've had to give up on Misty when we had a type advantage against her. Like, sure, a Pokemon like Ponyta might struggle here, or Vulpix, but Pikachu's supposed to win this fight and win it pretty easily. But at this point, the only thing to do is to go north to Bill's house and fight more trainers to try to get even more experience. Fortunately, this section of the game does give us a lot of opponents that we can grind against to get extra levels, but we're gonna really struggle, I think, in the late game if we're just depending on Double Team. Here I do learn Slam just so that we have better type coverage, adding a normal type attack that's at least decently strong, and at this level, let's go back and try Misty one more time. So starting off in this fight, I'm definitely going to use Double Team first, and it's because we cannot survive the Bubble Beams from the Starmie. And Here we are just hoping to get through with decent health, just in case we get a lucky tackle or something to hit us. It turns out to be a 2-hit KO on Staryu, and it looked like a 3-hit KO on Starmie, but actually a 4-hit KO. But we do get through this time. The double team actually worked. But that's not really a very good way to go through the game, and if we're just relying on double team, this Pikachu is not going to get a good placement on the final tier list. And it's not like beating Misty means that we're out of the woods. Even the innocent bystander is pretty troublesome. I've set up all the double teams here, and still, he's got me down to 4 HP just with the Machop, and here Drowsy, just one confusion knocks us out. So I have to take resets here on a rocket, which basically never happens, and it's only 2 HP remaining when I get through on the next attempt. So now we're going to try Rival 3 and see how this goes. At least we have a type advantage against Spearow, but again, I think the only play is to set up Double Team, because if we get hit by something like Hyper Fang, we're going to get wrecked. So here, with the Double Team setup, I'm going for Slam since it has a badge boost and attack. I'll use Surf on Sandshrew, and then back to Slam to take down the Eevee. It's looking like a 2-hit KO, so I just finished it off with a 100% accurate Surf. So with that done, I decide let's go ahead and take on Lieutenant Serge. He just attacks randomly, maybe like the anime. It will be Pikachu being too fast to get hit by the Raichu. There's one way to find out. So in the first attempt, I realized that I didn't heal before Lieutenant Serge, but I set up Double Team after he uses an X speed. He still one-shots me with a single Mega Punch. And this happened over and over again, where even Thunderbolt one-shot me, and that had me feeling pretty bad in this one, because sure, yeah, I didn't heal, but we should resist Thunderbolt. If we don't survive that, what are we gonna survive from any of his hits? So really, the only thing we can do is set up all the double teams and pray, basically, to not take a single hit. We get hit with Growl this time, which is perfectly fine, and I decide to just go into Surf and Slam. I'm just mixing between them to see which does more damage, and I managed to slam him down. But man, we've already taken 41 resets at this point. But fortunately, we have 3 gym badges, we got a badge boost in defense, which is pretty huge, and we can move on to the Wrapping Lass. Here, you would expect that the Wrapping Lass could be pretty trolly, but at least Double Team allows us to dodge a lot of her attacks, and Slam is doing decent damage here. It's not a one-hit on the Oddish, but I think it will be on the Bellsprout. It is, and Oddish is just a little bit bulkier, so we just need to land the hits. We end up being fully paralyzed for so many turns that this takes forever, but we finally get through. And now we can move on to the Rock Tunnel, where we actually get enough levels here on the second Pokemaniac that we're able to finally learn Thunderbolt, which might be our main attacking move for the rest of the game. Moving on to the Rock Tunnel Hiker, fortunately Surfing Pikachu has no troubles here. We just completely wreck him because, I mean, come on, what's he gonna do? Surf is 4 times super effective, and it's an easy win. Now we can go ahead and make our way out of this section, and next up is gonna be Rival 4. And the reason I'm going to take on Rival 4 is because he's really just not got too much to do against us. We've got Thunderbolt for Fearow, we've got Surf for Sandshrew. This shouldn't be too bad. So starting off in this fight, I'm just going to lead off with the double teams yet again, and Growl's perfectly fine, but you can see that a Fury attack did almost half damage to us. So we just still aren't very survivable even with the badge boost in defense, and it takes 2 Thunderbolts to take down the Fearow. Now I can change to Surf here on the Magnemite just because it's 100% accurate, and then back to Thunderbolt, it's a 1-hit KO on Shellder. Now we can use Surf to completely wreck the Sandshrew, and I think it's going to be a couple Thunderbolts here on the Eevee. It's just a matter of whether or not we can get the hits. It turns out to be a 3-hit KO, but we do take down Rival 4 on the first attempt, and maybe a lot of the resets are behind us now. We can now move on to Celadon City, where we can take on the Rocket Game Corner first. Erika's going to be hard in this one. We don't really have anything good to use against her. But here, even Eradicate isn't a 1-hit KO with Thunderbolt, which is kind of surprising because Eradicate doesn't have great special. And if that's setting up for the rest of this run, then maybe we just don't have the stats to be able to beat the game without using TMs. Now for the Jesse and James fight. Thunderbolt is a one-shot on Coughing, but not a one-shot on the Mouth, though we do get paralysis. and then it's a 2-hit KO on the Ekans, and we have enough health that I'm just going to take on Giovanni and see how it goes, but we probably need to set up double team on this one. Not for the Onyx or the Rhyhorn, they're going to go down in one hit to Surf. We're worried about Persian. Persian with a single bite could probably knock us out. And really, once we get the setup off, we can just use Surf 2 times on the rocks, and it's a 2-hit KO with Thunderbolt to take down the Persian at the end. We've gotten through this section without any additional resets, which has me feeling a little bit better, and maybe we just got really bad double team luck earlier on. At this point, I figure what the heck, there's really nothing better than going to take on Erika, but let's see if we can get through. In our first attempt against Erika, I set up double team, and we're hoping for Constrict since it might lower our speed, but that doesn't really make too much of a difference. We're already a fast Pokemon. After getting all of the double team set up, I changed to Slam since it's our only neutrally effective move, and we level up to level 31 after taking down Tangela. But Razor Leaf, when it hits, is a 1-hit KO from the Weepinbell. And at this point, it's just seeming like this one's probably not worth it. We have such a bad typing here. We're better off just going back to Lavender, taking down the Channelers, and really we can just get extra experience before we even have to fight Erika again. Now that is not to say that these Channelers are easy, because they can use moves like Nightshade and completely wreck us. But fortunately, Thunderbolt is a 2-hit KO here on the first Channeler, and we get through without any resets on that one. With the hardest Channeler down, we actually managed to get to Ghost Marowak without any resets in this section, and now we have to set up double team because if we get hit by Bone Club, we're just gonna get wrecked. It's a 2-hit KO with Surf though, and we are able to move on. So after making sure to heal here, I'm just going to go ahead and take on Jesse and James, and I don't think there'll be too much trouble as long as we get our setup off. So here I set up the double teams first on the Meowth while it tries to hit me with Payday, Growl, and Screech. And Screech is fine, that's a badge boost as long as we don't take too much damage, but we're all the way down to 4 HP on the first Pokemon. We do manage to take down Meowth in 2 hits, and now it's on to Arbok, who also takes 2 Thunderbolts to knock out, but then we get hit by a Smog and knocked out by the Wheezing. We have to try this one again. On the second attempt, I go into this run with... Fortunately, on the next attempt, we get to Wheezing with much better health, and it's a 2-hit KO with Thunderbolt. So only one reset in this section, and we've saved Mr. Fuji, and now we have to make some decisions. After healing at the Pokemon Center, I decide that it's time to try at least to beat Rival 5, since maybe Surf will be enough to get through the Sandslash and we can just wreck the rest of the team, but it really remains to be seen. We might just be too weak and too slow to even have a chance in this fight. Otherwise, we have to take on Koga or Erika, and neither of them are necessarily easy, so let's try Rival 5 first. This is gonna be tough. So, starting off against the Sandslash, obviously we need to lead off with the double teams, but the problem is that this Sandslash knows Swift. Swift does a lot of damage, and there's no way for us to avoid it. And on top of that, it's hitting us with sand attacks so many times that we can't hit anything, so we get knocked down on the first attempt. I keep trying a few more times just to see how this will go, but as I grinded this one, it just became more and more obvious that we weren't going to get through this fight. When we do finally manage to get through Sandslash, we were poisoned, and then we just didn't have the health to get through the rest of the team. And remember, this Magneton also can hit us with pretty strong moves. So after taking numerous attempts, I'm thinking that we just have to give up on this fight, and maybe it's time to go back and fight Erika instead. I mean, who knows? We've gained a couple levels, maybe Slam will do enough damage now that we can get through, maybe we'll get better double team luck and not get hit by the Razor Leaf, but that's really all we have to look forward to at this point in the game, so if we can't get through this, we might just have to give up on this one. So here in round 2 against Erika, of course I'm going to lead off with the double teams against the Tangela, and a Mega Drain does more than half damage, and we get knocked out with a second Mega Drain. Oh no, we're in grinding mode now. How many attempts is this going to take? On the next attempt, I managed to set up all the double teams. I do get a Vine Whip from the Tangela, which isn't the end of the world, but really we need to avoid taking any major damage from the Weepinbell. We take down this Tangela, but it's a 4-hit KO, and we level up to level 33 right here. Still not going to learn Agility because I don't think I need it. Here against the Weepinbell, I managed to actually knock it out this time after taking one hit from Acid, but the problem is we get a Petal Dance from the final Gloom and we get knocked out again. So round 2 against Erika, I once again decide I have to give up. We're now over 50 resets and it's becoming clear that this is not going to be a very good run, and I'm just wondering how many resets we're going to have at the end. There are only 2 trainers that we can fight that are required other than gym leaders, the 2 jugglers in Koga's gym. Now fortunately, with double team set up, we do have enough badge boosts in attack that Slam will allow us to even one-shot on this Kadabra if we can ever land the hits, and we managed to knock out this team without too much difficulty. And really, we just need to get enough luck to get through, and we fortunately hold up in this one. The second juggler turns out to be no trouble at all, so we can move straight on to Koga after that. And really, it's just, I'm wondering how bad Koga's gonna be. If he gets toxic, we're definitely gonna lose, but even Psychic could wreck us. Koga leads off with his first Venonat, and I'm going straight for the double teams here, hoping to get the setup, and we get put to sleep on the first attempt. Now fortunately we do manage to wake up, but that Psychic does so much damage that we just get completely destroyed. In the next attempt, I'm trying double team again, but even with double team set up, we still get put to sleep, and it's just a matter of how many times we're going to get hit. Now, we can never predict when we're using something like double team. We can't just say, oh, I have 7 HP, I need to reset with 3 Pokemon remaining, because they could all just miss us. But it's not very likely that we get through and we get knocked out again. I'm going to keep grinding this a few more times to see how it goes, but this is not looking good. After numerous failures against Koga, I decide to go back to Erika and try her again since Koga wasn't working out, and maybe just a little extra experience will get the trick done. But I mean, are we going to have to use all of our rare candies here in order to get through this section of the game? And if so, what chance do we even stand in the end game? Here in this one, I managed to knock out the Tangela. I'm onto the Weepinbell with decent health, and I actually get to the Gloom. And fortunately, it misses me enough times that I finally knock it out and I gain a level to level 35, which also gets me a damage rounding threshold. So now with this extra level, will I be able to take down Koga? That's the question, because Rival 5 is still probably impossible. Well, after grinding this out multiple times, I'm able to make just a little bit more progress each time. And double team, it's really just going to be a matter of luck how far I can get into this run. In this one, I managed to get through all the way to the Venomoth, but I get one shot by a Psychic. So we just have to grind this again and again and again, but this time we finally get to Venomoth on full health. And with full health, I'm able to use Thunderbolt to paralyze the Venomoth, and then it turns out to be about a 7-hit KO after I got one very lucky critical hit. And finally, we take down the 5th gym badge. At this point, now we have to make some more decisions, because we can either go and fight Blaine, or we can go back and try to fight Rival 5. And it's not really a simple question. While yes, Surf will be super effective against Blaine's Pokemon, it's not a same type attacking move, and it's not like we have an amazing special stat. And Blaine's Pokemon hit really hard in Pokemon Yellow. On the other hand, going up against Rival 5 is really tough because of the fact that we don't have the ability to dodge Swift. And Swift can do a lot of damage because of our very low defense stat. Ultimately, I decide to at least go to Cinnabar and try Blaine since we can get 2 more rare candies down here, but I'm not too hopeful here because really, while he does attack randomly in Pokemon Yellow, he leads off with the Ninetales that can confuse us, that can use Flamethrower, that can use Quick Attack and do decent damage. There's just not a lot that I think is going to help us here other than just plain dumb luck. And this is kind of showing like, yeah, double team can allow us to win fights, but it's not a very good way to go. Here, let's try Blaine at least and just see how he goes though. Maybe we'll get lucky the first time? Maybe. So in the first attempt against Blaine, he sends out his Ninetales and immediately confuses us with Confuse Ray. I start setting up double team expecting that hopefully I should at least be able to get through the first Pokemon, but we get confused and knock ourselves out. time to start grinding again and see if we can manage some sort of luck to just get through this fight. Well, not really. Most of the time, we're getting knocked out by the Ninetales. We're just not bulky enough, and when it does manage to hit us, we get wrecked. I make my best attempt here in this section, actually managing to get through the Ninetales one time, but it's not really that great. I mean, sure, maybe we get to Rapidash, but we still have to dodge multiple hits because Surf is not like a 2-hit KO here. No, we're having to grind these Pokemon down 4 or 5 hits. So I decided to go back and take on Rival 5 instead, and let's just see how he goes now that we have a badge boost and speed to go together with having Double Team. Well, the issue is still kind of the same. Sandslash can do a lot of damage to us, and we're just hoping that our attacks actually hit after we take a Sand attack. Here we are able to get the Cloyster into a 2-hit KO range, and now we're just hoping not to get knocked out by this Magneton, but really, it's taking 4 hits just to take that one down. Now, if Slam can hit, we probably just one-shot there on the Kadabra, which we do, and now we finally made it all the way to Flareon, and if we can just get one more Surf, there we go. We got through Rival 5, and we can actually progress in the game. So now that we've finally gotten through that, we can try to get this run back on track. We can take on Jesse and James, who shouldn't be too difficult at this point, given that with Double Team and being over-leveled relative to them, Thunderbolt should be more than enough to take these Pokemon down. It's a 2-hitter there on Arbok, and we don't quite one-shot the Meowth, which is a little disturbing, but we do manage to get through with 3 HP remaining. Now I'm just going to go ahead and heal up and try to take on Giovanni, and fortunately Surf will give us a way to get through the Rhyhorn and the Nidoqueen as long as we can avoid the hits. But I'm not sure we're getting this on the first attempt. I go ahead and set up the double teams first on the Nidorino since it can't really do a whole lot against us. I mean, Fury Attack is basically its best attacking move here, but we're all the way down to 21 HP when we finally knock it out. Here it takes a couple of Thunderbolts in order to actually knock out the Persian, and then Surf is an easy one-shot on the Rhyhorn. The issue here is Nidoqueen. If it lands a single hit, there we go. So we have to try this one again, and if we can get to Nidoqueen with better health, we should get through. It actually ends up taking 3 more attempts to get back to the Nidoqueen with enough health and enough accuracy luck that we are able to knock it out. So we've gotten through the Silphco, and now we've only got 2 options. We either have to take on Sabrina or we have to take on Blaine. The advantages of taking on Sabrina are the fact that she attacks completely randomly, and her first Pokemon will never attack us. It will only use Flash with the Abra. On the other hand, Blaine gives us a badge boost in Special, so we're going to have to beat him eventually either way, but I'm thinking that Sabrina might be the easier opponent. So I'm going to make my way over to Sabrina's gym, and let's just see how this goes. If we can avoid the flashes while setting up Double Team, we might just have a shot, but it's not guaranteed. So Sabrina's going to flash us with Abra every single time. There's nothing we can do other than just set up the double teams and hope that we end up with more accuracy than she has. It's also worth noting that all of these accuracy drops are badge boosts in attack, meaning that we may be able to just use Slam when we rarely hit with it to one-shot the Kadabra just like that. And here, we really don't like Reflect from the Alakazam because it reduces our damage quite a bit by doubling Alakazam's defense. And because our accuracy is really low, we just aren't able to prevent it from healing up with Recover, and if it just keeps recovering the damage, this becomes kind of an infinite fight that we can never win. And it's eventually going to hit a Psychic through our double teams and we get knocked out. Let's try this one again, and hopefully if we get fewer flashes from the Abra, then maybe we can manage to get through this one. I mean, it's just one of those things where you can never guess what kind of luck you're going to get when you're dealing with accuracy and evasion strats. On this one, we do manage to get through with fewer accuracy drops and take down the Kadabra, and we're all the way to Alakazam, and with it in one-hit KO range, Thunderbolt is perfect for finishing the job. So there we go, we've got through Sabrina. Now it's time to go and try to take on Koga, and if we can beat him, then we might just have a shot at the end of the game. I'm just worried about how many attempts this is going to take because it's obviously just going to come down to double team luck. And really, the next trainer, Giovanni, is going to be even worse. So here against Blaine in the next attempt, I'm going to set up the double teams and just hope and pray that he doesn't hit me for enough turns that I can manage to get through this one. Here we managed to get all the double teams set up, and I change into Surf, which looks like a 4-hit KO there on the Ninetales. And here we're going to go into Surf, which is a 3-hit KO on the Rapidash. Can we just manage to survive here against the Arcanine? Well, before we make that decision, we've just leveled up to level 41, and we actually have a pretty big decision to make here, because we're going to learn Thunder. Do we want to learn Thunder over Thunderbolt? Do we want to just keep Thunderbolt? It's actually a pretty difficult question, because again, we're trading accuracy in exchange for power here. I ultimately decide that Thunder may be the play because we're just not doing enough damage in a lot of these spots. And here I end up changing into Thunder, and it misses quite a few times, but if we can just get enough hits, we might be able to take down this Arcanine here. And we've got it maybe in 1-hit KO range here, and we finally knock it out. So Blaine goes down, and it's time to move on to Giovanni. There's no way we're outspeeding Dugtrio, so this is probably going to add a lot of resets. So first things first, we're really hoping not to get Earthquake or Fissure while we set up all of our double teams. Fortunately, when he does use Dig, it gives us an extra turn to use another double team, but one hit knocks us out. We got to try this one again and see if we can get better luck, but it's going to take quite a few attempts, I think, just to get through even the first Pokemon. Now, fortunately, it is possible for him to miss with both Fissure and with Sand Attack, and he does use Guard Specs, which gives us a shot, so we actually get through Dugtrio on the second attempt, and we take down Persian. Now we're just using Surf to try to take down Nidoqueen, but we level up right here, meaning we lost our badge boosts, and now it's looking more like a 4-hit KO here on Nidoking, and we take an Earthquake and get knocked out. This is looking like a spot where we might want to use a rare candy to avoid that level up, so that we can keep our badge boosts and do more damage to the last 2 Pokemon. Here in the next attempt, I go ahead and set up all the double teams once again, and Surf is not quite a 1-hit KO against the Dugtrio, but we take it out in 2 hits, and now we can go for Thunder in order to take down Persian, since it's the only Pokemon that's weak against Thunder, and finally we can go ahead for 2 Surfs to take down the Nidoqueen. Here, I'm going to spam the rest of my Surfs on this Nidoking here and try to knock it out. We actually get through this time, and now can we take down Rhydon? It's a 2-hit KO, but we actually get through on the 3rd attempt. That's incredible. I thought we were going to add at least 100 resets just due to Fissure and Earthquake and Dig. No, we got through in only 3 attempts there, thanks to the power of Surf. So now we got to take on Rival 6, and this is not going to be easy. Even though his Sandslash doesn't know Earthquake yet, we are still looking at a situation where Slash and Swift can basically wreck us. And even if we get to the Magneton, Swift might still wreck us in this one. So we're really hoping to just have some sort of good luck here. We don't get it on the first attempt, but maybe with just the right luck, the right setup, we'll be able to get all the double teams off and get deep into this team. It's impossible to understate just how difficult this fight is, because we are over 100 resets before we even manage to get through the Sandslash. And even when we get through Sandslash, Magneton can just completely end us, or we can get poisoned by the Execute, or something bad can happen. So often we're just getting nowhere in this fight, and basically just it looks impossible. Now I'm debating whether or not I should use my rare candies here, but really I'm just hoping that maybe Double Team will give us the luck at some point to be able to get through this. And if we ever get a decent run where we get all of our setup off, we don't get Swift, we don't get a lucky poison or paralysis or something from the Execute, we might just have a chance. So here at 117 resets, I'm setting up all of my double teams. I get a poison sting from the Sandslash, which is perfectly fine, and then we get a Swift taking us down to about half health. One more Swift has us down to 25 HP, but we managed to get through to the Execute, which uses Solar Beam this time, giving us a chance to knock it out. Thunder is a one-shot on the Cloister, and in spite of a Swift taking me down to 7 HP, I managed to surf down the Magneton. Now it's all about Slam on this Kadabra, and if we can land the hit, I use Surf when it's on low health just because it's a 100% accurate move. And now we just need to avoid any hit from the Flareon, it's so low on health, and we get through. But that's 117 resets to get through Rival 6, which means we're not getting anywhere close to the S tier in this one, and we're going to be praying just to get an A tier finish. Remember, we still have to get through the Elite Four and the Champion, and the Champion's Sandslash knows Earthquake. So before I make my way to the Pokemon League, I'm going to go to the Power Plant, I'm going to get the last Max Elixir, the last PP up, and the last Rare Candy, and we may end up just having to use all of them even on the first Elite Four member. Yeah, Lorelei should in theory be the easiest one, given the fact that we have Thunder, it should give us a type advantage, and if we can just get Dugong to rest, then we should be able to set up most of our badge boosts with Double Team right there. But it's not guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed, and we still have huge problems out in front of us, especially from the Champion. The Champion Sandslash has Smart AI, and it's guaranteed to use Earthquake every single time, and if we can't one-shot it, then we're gonna just be praying for Double Team luck to avoid that 100% Earthquake. And I'm pretty sure Earthquake will one-shot us every single time. So with that being said, it's time to get into the Elite Four and just try this. I'm just going to drop the PP ups into Thunder so that we have as much PP in our best moves as possible, and we'll put one last one into Surf, just because we're going to need these moves in order to take down Agatha. So with that being said, let's get into the Lorelei fight now, and just pray that this works out. The strategy here is pretty simple. We need to ideally get the Dugong to rest. In the first attempt, I didn't really go for that. I just sat here and spammed Double Team, but then we managed to get hit by it and knocked out. If we get it to rest, however, that's going to guarantee that we get at least 3 turns to set up. So really, we just want to use something like Slam in order to do a little bit of damage. Now it goes to sleep. Perfect. Now we can set up the Double Teams, and by the time it wakes up and tries to attack us again, we've already got quite a bit of evasion. Even with the badge boost, Thunder is not a one-hit KO there. It should be a one-hit KO here on the Cloister, but actually not. So even with a lower special stat, that just didn't really work out. And here the Slowbro hits us and does massive damage, and with Amnesia, we're just not doing too much against it. And given the fact that Lorelei uses 2 super potions per Pokemon, this isn't really looking possible. So I decide to go ahead and use a Rare Candy to avoid the level up in the middle of this fight, and let's just see if that gives me what I need to be able to actually get through this one. Here we take a huge takedown from the Dugong, but then it does rest, allowing us to finish our setup. Here I'm going to just switch into Thunder at this point. It's still a 2-hit KO there, and we managed to 1-hit on the Cloister and 1-hit on the Slowbro. Now I'm just hoping that it will be enough to take down Jinx, which it is, and now we've leveled up, but Thunder takes down the Lapras and we get to move on into the Elite Four. Next up is going to be Bruno, and Bruno's not going to be a cakewalk with this Pikachu, because remember, he has 2 Onix that both know ground type moves in Pokemon Yellow. And the Hitmons aren't exactly easy either. They'll also spam Double Team. So here I'm going to lead off with the Double Teams against the first Onix, just hoping and praying that it doesn't hit me with Dig, which fortunately we dodged the first Dig, and now we can use Surf to one-shot that Onix. Now it's all about Thunder, hoping that it will hit to knock out the Hitmons, but we don't one-hit KO the Hitmonlee, and it knocks us out with High Jump Kick. So now we've got to try this one again. Once again, we're going through the whole setup of Double Team at the beginning, but the real issue is that we're not strong enough to guarantee one-hit KOs on everything. Here against the Hitmonlee, the second time I decide to finish my Double Team setup here, and if we can just land a hit, we do take it out with a badge boost. The reason we didn't take it out last time was because of the level up, but now we get hit by Submission with Machamp, and that just takes us down in one hit. We're way too weak to stand up to any actual damage here. So now we have to take a third attempt against Bruno, and this is probably the worst Bruno split that we've had in any challenge so far, which doesn't give us a lot of confidence for Pikachu actually being able to finish this challenge, and even if it does, it's not going to be very high on the tier list. So I'm just going to keep grinding this because I have no choice, but how many attempts is this going to end up taking? Well, after 125 total resets, we have this run where we're all the way down at 1 HP. We managed to take down Hitmonchan, and then we level up to get to 3 HP and take down Hitmonlee. Now we finish our double teams on the second Onix, and fortunately it doesn't attack us with Earthquake, we knock it out, and now it turns out to be 2 Thunders to take down the Machamp, but we finally got through, but we barely got through, and that has me really nervous about Agatha. Because Agatha, we know, is completely trolly, and she's going to outspeed us with her Gengar. If we don't get decent luck here, we're probably just getting wrecked. So how many attempts is this one gonna take? Well, fortunately in the first attempt, she uses Substitute immediately, and that allows us to go ahead and start setting up our double teams. And even though we're confused, at least we don't have to deal with taking as many hits, so I change into Thunder to try to knock this one out. And we're having very good confusion luck so far, so we haven't even had to deal with hitting ourselves in confusion. Now Thunder should be more than enough to take down the Golbat, but it's not a one hit, it's a 2-hit KO here. And moving on to the Haunter, we now get confused yet again and hit ourselves in confusion, but fortunately we don't hit ourselves too many times. We do get a Super Potion here, which kind of sucks, but we can take that one down. We've moved on to the Arbok though, and a single Acid knocks us out. So at this point I'm feeling like I have to use a rare candy to avoid the level up in the middle of this fight so that I can keep my badge boost and hopefully get the luck that I need. In this one she starts by swapping out from her Gengar to her Golbat. That gives me an extra turn to set up a double team, and even though I'm confused, at least I can get most of my setup done. Here we're just hoping not to get Toxic as well, because Toxic will end this run. She swaps now to the Haunter, which is going to give us a chance to just knock it out. She goes back to her first Gengar. We get confused yet again, and it uses Substitute. We break the Substitute with Thunder and then knock it out, and we're all the way to the Arbok once again, but I'm really hoping not to take a single hit here. We managed to knock it out with 3 slams, and now we level up on the final Gengar. I'm not going to learn Light Screen, and I'm just hoping to land enough hits here to be able to get through, but it's looking like a 5-hit KO at this point. We do manage to paralyze it, but then we hit ourselves in confusion. We're at 4 HP, and she uses a Super Potion. We need one more hit in order to finish this one, and we knock ourselves out in confusion. Agatha is such a troll. It's so ridiculous trying to get through this every single time, and that was about as close as we could possibly hope to get and still fail. So we're going to try this a few more times and just see how this goes, but we may have to think about using all of our rare candies pretty quickly. 8 resets later, I managed to get back to the Gengar at the very end of Agatha's team, and I have decent health. I'm over 50% of my total health remaining with all the double teams set up, but we still leveled up here, so I'm hoping not to get hit too many times. We had it all the way down in 1-hit KO range, but she used a Super Potion, but this time she misses and we're able to knock her out. So we are all the way up to 132 resets here, but we are to Lance. And if we can find a way through Lance, then we're going to have a decent shot here. And really, I'm not worried about Gyarados. We're going to be able to one-shot it with Thunder 100% of the time as long as we hit. It's really the Dragonairs and the Dragonite that are scary here. So I'm going to lead off with all of the double teams first, but even with double team, we get knocked out in the first attempt by the Gyarados. That's fine though. We just know that we need to just get better luck than that really with the double teams, and then we'll be able to get through the rest of the team, and at least the final Dragonite doesn't have super accurate moves. Hyper Beam, Blizzard, Fire Blast, and Thunder can all miss a decent percentage of the time, and with the double teams they should be less than 25% accurate. But that requires us to actually get through the Gyarados, and I'm just not getting through the Gyarados because I'm trying to set up all the double teams. The 4x super effectiveness of Thunder basically guarantees it will be a one hit when it actually connects, and so we knock it out finally this time. But now we have to deal with the Dragonairs, who also hit me with Hyper Beam and I get wrecked. So how many attempts is this going to take to even get to the Aerodactyl and the Dragonite? Well, I'm on 149 resets when I finally get to Aerodactyl for the first time. But here's the problem, I miss so many times with Thunder and it gets a critical hit Swift. All of my double teams don't matter when it hits me with Swift, so now that I know that this isn't really working, I decide to go ahead and use a rare candy to avoid a level up here and maybe have a better shot when I finally get back to that Aerodactyl. 18 resets later, I get to Aerodactyl and I manage to one-shot it with the Thunder, but then I level up before the Dragonite. And here we're not doing that much damage, and a lucky Blizzard knocks me out. So this isn't even guaranteed when I get to the final Pokemon, even with all the double teams set up. It's now a serious concern how many attempts this is actually going to take. So I'm just going to keep setting up the double teams and trying to get through this team, but really, if we can't survive a hit from the Aerodactyl and we can't land the Thunder, we're going to lose. And even when we get to the Dragonite, we have to hit like 5 times in order to knock it out. So here I do take down Gyarados, I get to the first Dragonair where I'm going to use Slam in order to try to take it down. I use Surf in this one, but it's actually to keep him from being in a range where he'll use Hyper Potions. Basically, anytime he's in red health, there's a chance he'll use a Hyper Potion and then heal up. We managed to also land the Thunder on Aerodactyl, knocking it out. We have 34 HP left, and we managed to paralyze the Dragonite this time. If we can land one more hit, but he uses a Hyper Potion. So now we need to land another 5 or 6 hits in order to knock this one out. Here we've got it pretty close into a range and we get a critical hit, allowing us to knock him out. Finally, at 169 resets, we have beaten Lance and we're onto the champion. Maybe we can get really lucky on this one and still manage an A tier finish, but if this Sand Slash at the beginning of the champions team decides to just hit us every single time with Earthquake, if double team can't do the job, then this run might be over right here. We should outspeed, meaning that we will always have a chance, but it's going to take a lot of luck to get through this one. So strap in, guys, because we're going to be grinding for a while, I think. The question is really how many attempts will it take to get through? So now that I've set up everything, I've used all of the rare candies, I'm at as high a level as I can possibly get to on minimum battles here with this Pikachu. The only thing left is to try it. So here, the very first attempt against the champion, I'm setting up my double teams and one shot takes us down. Even at level 59, even having used all the rare candies, it just doesn't make a difference. Every time that we don't manage to hit him and knock him out, he's going to one-shot us, and Surf is not a one-hit KO. It's only doing about half damage. A critical hit might be enough to knock out the Sand Slash, and then we would have to set up on the Alakazam, but that's not necessarily a good strategy either. Alakazam is really strong, and a single Psychic could probably knock Pikachu out. So we've already taken a ton of resets without even getting through the Sand Slash, but let's see what happens if we finally get through to the Alakazam. Well, here we actually managed to get a critical hit Surf, which does one-shot the Sand Slash, and now we can start setting up our double teams here on the Alakazam. The problem is we get hit multiple times with Kinesis, lowering our accuracy while giving us extra badge boosts. So when it did hit us with the Psybeam, it didn't do that much damage because we have such a high special stat from badge boosts. We do manage to take it down. Now against the Exeggutor, we're trying to use Slam to knock it out because that's our only neutrally effective move. We actually get put to sleep and then barraged down. Oh my god, that was probably our best shot. On 208 resets, we take on the champion yet again, and this time we actually managed to get quite a bit of luck. We set up 3 of our double teams right here on the Sand Slash without getting hit, then we're able to go into Surf, and it's a 2-hit KO, but we do manage to knock this one out. Now we can finish our double team setup on the Alakazam, but we've already got some double teams set up, so we don't take as many hits here. And now we're just hoping to land the slams and knock it out. The Psychic did a lot of damage, but we have 14 HP remaining,
and now we're using Slam in order to take down Exeggutor. Turns out to be a 4-hit KO. Here against the Magneton, the issue is it knows Swift, and if it uses it, we go down. So now we have to try to get that kind of luck again. Over 170 resets later, I'm beginning to lose my mind on this one, because we just haven't been able to get through even the Sand Slash most of these attempts, but when we have gotten through, we haven't ever managed to get back to the Magneton. So here I do manage to take down the Sand Slash. I'm setting up my double teams here on the Alakazam. Slam does manage to take it down after taking one Psybeam, and we just need some luck in this one. Are we ever going to get it? Are we going to run out of resets here? When we get to the Magneton, it does manage to hit me once, but I managed to take it down. And now if Thunder can connect, we take down the Cloyster, and now it's just a matter of can we take down this Flareon? It's a 2-hit KO, and there we go. 379 resets, but we did finally manage to beat the entire game with a Pikachu on 0 DVs, minimum battles, and with no TMs. That being said, it was by far and away the worst of these runs that we've ever had. This is worse than HM Mule, it's worse than Lapras, it's just absolutely terrible. But Pikachu did do it. And that does put it a step above Pokemon like Dragonite, Pokemon like Alakazam, that could not beat the game on minimum battles or could not beat the game without TMs. So Pikachu is basically going down into the C tier, but it's at least performed admirably in some fashion. But now we need to go back and answer the question, can we make this run any better? Because this was terrible. And in a lot of spots, the only thing that I can see to make this run better is to add more optional battles and add levels. There's nothing about our moveset that is really bad other than maybe Slam. We might replace Slam with something like Body Slam instead, higher accuracy, chance to paralyze, but otherwise there's nothing really to be changed here. Surf has to be on our moveset. We're either using Thunder or Thunderbolts via level up, and Double Team's not going anywhere as a badge boosting move that also gives us our only chance at surviving in tough battles. So let's see how many optional battles this is going to take in order to get through this one.
So because Brock was no issue in our first run, I decided to start adding optional battles starting on Route 3. I'm going to fight Pidgeygirl, I'm going to fight the extra bug catcher, and I'm even going to fight the hiker in Mount Moon. The reason that I decided to take on these trainers is because of the fact that Pikachu was incredibly inconsistent against Jessie and James. It was just getting one shot by the Meowth, or it was getting to the coughing without enough health, and just we had so many resets there. By taking these optional battles though, we'll get to level 15, and that will allow us to get to Double Team before we take on Jessie and James. And that really is the key with this Pikachu. We're just going to take the easiest battles that we can because we want to avoid any extra resets. But Pikachu is so frail that there's still a chance to get resets on even some of these easier opponents. So we probably have to over level just a little bit to be consistent, but here by beating the hiker in Mount Moon, we get to level 15 and we learn Double Team. So with that, we can go and try to take on the Jessie and James fight, and let's just see how this goes. Here, I'm going to lead off with Double Team, of course, in order to try to raise my evasion, but Ekans is doing a lot of damage when it hits, and it hits Wrap even through our Double Team setup, and I'm not so confident we're getting through this one. We're all the way down to 1 HP. I go into Quick Attack because we've got Badge Boosts and Attack. We take down Ekans. Fortunately, Meowth never hits us, and now we just have to hope that we don't take a single hit from this coughing, because we've only got 1 HP. If we get hit with anything, we lose. Fortunately, I get it in a range, and Surf knocks it out. So now in the next section, we weren't consistent against Misty initially either, and we know Lieutenant Serge is coming up, we know that Rapping Lass is coming up, and they're pretty tough, so I decided to take an optional battle against the Swimmer in Misty's gym, and I also take on the Hikers north on the way to Bill's house. And All of these are basically just about getting the highest XP yields that we can find in this section of the game, while also balancing that against not getting extra resets. Because if we get extra resets and we're taking optional battles, that's a double hit on my tier list. The scoring rules for my tier list are included down below, but basically we have a 0.25 point penalty for each additional battle we take, and a 0.1 point penalty for each reset that we take. So if we're resetting and taking optional battles, then we're just gonna see our score absolutely tank super quickly. Even though those sound very small, like fractions of a point, it adds up. So here I decide to take on Misty this time at level 23, and I'm going for double team, of course, because I want to survive as long as possible. We've already picked up Slam here, so we have a pretty strong physical attacking move, but I'm actually going to use Thundershock, and it turns out to be a 2-hit KO on Staryu. And now we're just hoping for double team to hold up. We paralyze Starmie and we take it down with one more hit. So we got through Misty on the first attempt, perfect. But now Lieutenant Serge was pretty bad last time. And we definitely just need more levels because he was one-shotting us with Thunderbolt when we tried to take him on in the first run. So I'm going to fight additional trainers here in the SSN. Now you might say, well, why do you even need to fight Lieutenant Surge at this point? You could just go through Rock Tunnel. But the Wrapping Lass with her 4 grass-type Pokemon was also a wall in the last run, because she can resist our Thunderbolt, she resists Surf, and we just can't really do that much. So the other optimization I decided to make here was to get access to Body Slam. Now, in the first run, of course, I was trying to beat the game without any TMs, but TMs also have a penalty on my tier list. It's 1 point for a normal TM like Body Slam, 10 points for broken TMs, things like Substitute and Toxic. So now that we've got Body Slam, let's try Lieutenant Surge and see how this goes. A single Mega Kick knocks me out. Pikachu is just so frail. If we aren't able to set up the double teams, it's still basically a guaranteed loss here. We get a Mega Kick and then a Thunderbolt knocking us out in the second attempt. We're just too weak. So here finally in the third attempt, we are able to set up our double teams. He makes all the wrong decisions, including using things like Growl. And after double team setup, it's a 2-hit KO with Body Slam, keeping in mind we had badge boosts in attack. Now we can move on to the Wrapping Lass, and we get paralyzed immediately by Stun Spore, but that's probably fine. What we need is just to set up all the double teams so that we can then use Body Slam, and hopefully it's going to be a 1-hit KO here, and it is. And we also are able to one-shot the second Bellsprout. But then we level up and we lose the badge boosts, turning these into 2-hit KOs on the remaining Oddish and the remaining Bellsprout. The badge boosts are just incredibly important. So now I'm going to move through the Rock Tunnel with no real issues, but I'm going to take on even more trainers here, because we knew from the last run that we couldn't beat Erika at this point, and we also know that Rival 5 is coming up and he's going to be an absolute nightmare. So when I finally take on Erika in this one, I'm all the way up to level 41, and it's just adding optional battles because there's not really much more to do. Like, there aren't really TMs to add. We're just going to set up double team and then hope that the badge boosts with Body Slam are enough. We 2-hit on the Tangela. It's a 1-hit on Weepinbell and a 2-hit on Gloom, so we get through that fight actually very, very easily. Now we're going to take on Koga, and I ended up leveling up to level 42 here, just taking him on basically right after Erika. But here we still have the same issue where if we can't set up double team, if we get hit by Toxic, if we take too much damage, we can just get wrecked here. So the first Venonat beat me at level 42. I'm going to try this one again because I think it's possible at this point. We just need better luck to not get put to sleep. And this time he uses some X attack, which is perfectly fine, but we get hit by Psychic even though we're setting up double team. It's a kind of recurring theme with this Pikachu, and the only other option is to level up a bunch because we would have to reach the point where we could basically one-shot or two-shot these Venonats. So here we are a 2-hit KO with Body Slam after setting up all of our double teams and getting 6 badge boosts in attack. Here we get confused, which is kind of bad, but we do manage to take down the second Venonat. We paralyze the third Venonat and then knock it out.
And finally, we get to the Venomoth. We paralyze it on the first turn with Body Slam. It's also setting up Double Team. I switch into Thunderbolt just to do more damage, and we do manage to take him down at level 43. So there we go. We have gotten through the first 5 badges, but we're not out of the woods. Before we can take on Rival 5 or take on Blaine, we need more levels. So I end up going south of Pallet Town and fighting a bunch of these water type trainers because yet again, Thunderbolt, 1-hit KOs. Now we go and fight Rival 5, but we're all the way up to level 50 in this one. Surf is not a 1-hit KO on the Sandslash at this point. We do one-shot the Cloyster with Thunderbolt, and now I'm trying to set up my double teams on the Magneton. But we get hit with a Sonic Boom and we get knocked out on the first attempt. I'm going to try this again. Maybe we can get better luck or better range, but this is going to be hard. We get a Sand Attack this time from the Sandslash, so we did get through with full HP. Thunderbolt still one-shots on the Cloyster, but now we're really just going to be playing accuracy strats. Our accuracy's been dropped, but hopefully the evasion will be enough to allow us to get through. So I set up all of the double teams and then go Body Slam to take down the Magneton. One Body Slam takes down the Kadabra, and then it's going to take 2 Body Slams to take down this Flareon. We've been burned, but it doesn't matter. Level 50 is the point where we can get through Rival 5. Now moving on to Sabrina immediately after beating the Silphco. Basically, this one just comes down to setting up all the double teams, get all the badge boosts, and Body Slam should be enough to get through these Pokemon. We knock out both Abra and Kadabra in one hit. We paralyze the Alakazam, and it turns into a 2-hit KO there. So, very nice. We got through that with no issues. Now it's on to Blaine. We just went there immediately after Sabrina. We're at level 52, but this one is still pretty random. If we get hit a lot with strong moves like Flamethrower, Fire Blast, Stomp, Takedown, we're going to get beat. So we just have to hope to set up the double teams. We get them set up in this one, and I use Body Slam in order to paralyze the Rapidash and knock it out. And I'm sticking with Body Slam until the Arcanine uses Reflect. Then I switch into Surf, and there it goes. Easy. We get through on the first attempt against Blaine. But we know the real challenge in this run is Giovanni. Giovanni is basically going to outspeed us with Dugtrio and one-shot us, unless we can get 134 speed or more. So I end up leveling up a couple times to get to level 55, where we finally outspeed the Dugtrio, and it's still not a 1-hit KO with Surf. So now we have to use Double Team. It digs and knocks us out in a single hit because Dig's 100 base power. This is ridiculous. So here I have to go for a single double team to get a badge boost and special, and then I can one-shot the Dugtrio. And I'm going to finish my setup here on the Persian, and I'm just hoping that I can get all the setup off in time. Switch to Thunderbolt. It's going to be a 2-hit KO here on the Persian. Now Surf on the Nidoqueen is still a 2-hit KO even with badge boosts, and it's a 2-hit KO on the Nidoking. But fortunately, Surf is 4 times super effective on Rhydon, so we take it down in a single hit. But we are pretty over-leveled here. We have taken a ton of optional battles. We're over 120 battles at this point. There are only 64 required battles in the game. Here, I am able to one-shot Rival 6's Sandslash with a single Surf, which is great. But now I have to deal with Leech Seed and Paralysis from the Execute. So we're paralyzed and leech seeded. Can we get through this one? Well, Thunderbolt is a one-shot on the Cloyster, but it's just going to take too many turns to take down this Magneton, so we get knocked out. Okay, so a couple of attempts later, I decide to just try this again. Let's just see, maybe if I get better luck on the Execute, it won't be too big of a deal. Again, we can just easily knock out that Sandslash. And we get Stun Spored yet again from this Execute. Then we get hit by Solar Beam a couple of times. That's not great. But we do manage to evade Leech Seed, and that is a pretty big deal. We're able to knock it out. Now a Thunderbolt one-shots on the Cloyster as expected. But we have to still be worried because this Magneton knows Swift, which can hit through all of our double teams. Fortunately, we're not paralyzed too many turns and we knock it out. Body Slam one-shots the Kadabra, and now it's going to be about a 2-hit KO there on the Flareon, so we get through Rival 6 on the next attempt. So We're 125 battles. That's about 61 optional battles to this point as we go into the Elite Four with 21 resets. But how can we do from here? We're still in decent range for an A tier finish at this point, but we're probably not making S tier. Here in this one, Dugong, I get it to go to sleep. I'm going to set up all my double teams, and then I'm going to just keep it asleep as long as I can. I'm using Body Slam to paralyze it, and then Thunderbolt should do the job here. Thunderbolt also one-shots on the Cloister. It's going to take a couple hits here on the Slowbro. Going on to the Jinx, I'm just going to Body Slam it down since it has lower defense. And of course, Thunderbolt is the play. It takes 2 hits to knock out the Lapras. So now we can move on to Bruno, who shouldn't be too hard. And it's at this point I just have to apologize to you guys because I didn't have my screen capture set up, so my mouse pointer is sitting in the middle of the screen. Sorry guys, it's fixed in future runs, don't worry. But here against Bruno, we're just gonna, ignore that little mistake and use Surf to one-shot on the Onyx. Thunderbolt takes down both of the Hitmons, and with all the double teams set up, we've got plenty of badge boosts, and it turns out to be a 2-hit KO on the Machamp. So there we go, we've made it all the way to Agatha without too much trouble here against the Elite Four. We haven't reset on the first 2 members. Agatha, of course, we would expect to add more resets, but, that's probably still okay. And I'm hoping that it's not going to take too many attempts at least, but Agatha is just going to be random, we know that. We do have enough PP to attack her between Thunderbolt and Surf, and Double Team is really just the play. We just need the badge boost. So here against the first Gengar, I'm going to go ahead and set up Double Team. It uses Substitute, which is great. It just gives us a free turn to set up. She switches to Golbat, and I didn't want to get hit by Toxic, so I just one-shot the Golbat with a Thunderbolt, and I continue doing my setup. Once I've got all the Double Team set up, she switched to Haunter, which we knocked out, switched back to Gengar, easy 1-hit KO. And I mean, we end up just wrecking her entire team on the first attempt. So I'm feeling really stoked at this point. Maybe we can just continue this through Lance. Maybe being here at about level 67 is perfect for beating the Elite Four with this Pikachu, and then we can just move on. I mean, we haven't added a ton of TMs. We haven't added a ton of resets. This is looking fine. So here against Lance, of course, I'm going to lead off with Double Team, but a single Hyper Beam knocks me out from the Gyarados. So we're going to need better luck than that. Here, we get a Hydro Pump on the second attempt, but then a Hyper Beam, and this is where this is starting to get a little bit ridiculous. We're going to take a lot of resets here, perhaps, because if we ever do get hit, we're getting wrecked. I decided to change my strategy to just knock out the Gyarados and then try to set up here on the Dragonair. It can go for things like Hyper Beam and Slam, but we get all the double teams set up, and now the Dragonairs are just 2-hit KOs. Thunderbolt wrecks the Aerodactyl, and here we just need to dodge the hits from the Dragonite. It gets a lucky Blizzard and we get knocked out. But this seems to be the play. It's best to just easily knock out the Gyarados because it's more powerful, and then go for the double teams on the Dragonair where at least all of its moves can miss and we can survive a Hyper Beam. So if it's recharging, that's just another turn for us to set up. Here I go back into Body Slam. It's a 2-hit KO on the Dragonair 1. It's going to be 2 hits here on Dragonair 2. Thunderbolt is the play, but because we got a speed drop from the second Dragonair's Bubble Beam, we were outsped and we got knocked out by the Aerodactyl using Swift. Oh god. Swift is so much more common in yellow than it is in red and blue, so it's a big reason why Double Team isn't nearly as broken in this version of the game. Anyway, we're back to the Dragonair, we're going to do our setup again, and if we can just get to the Aerodactyl and outspeed it, we'll get through every time. So here, the second Dragonair, please just don't Bubble Beam me. There we go. Now we can one-shot the Aerodactyl with Thunderbolt, and now we're using Thunderbolt on the Dragonite, and we get the 2-hit KO this time. So we are all the way to the champion, and we are at level 67. I'm going to spam my last 4 rare candies here, because obviously we just want to have as high a level as possible. And let's just see how we do against the champion in this one. I'm not super confident here because, yeah, this one's gonna be a little bit rough, I think. Here, we do not one-shot the Sand Slash.
So yeah. And I realized at this point I didn't actually use my rare candies, but that's fine. We're going to spam them now. We're going to see how the range goes. Maybe 4 more levels gets us through another damage rounding threshold. Maybe it's enough. Maybe we'll just be able to get that Sand Slash in a range or something that we can knock it out. Well, let's try. Here I go ahead and go for Surf. It's still not a one-hit KO, and Earthquake knocks us out. And I go for this quite a few times, and I try changing into like double team, a single double team, and then Surf does allow me to knock this one out. Body Slam is more than enough for the Alakazam, and then I decide to try to finish my setup here on the Exeggutor, and we get Leech Seeded. Not great, but maybe we still have a chance. Let's just see how far we can get. Here, it turns out to be a 3-hit KO with all the double teams set up. Body Slam is enough for Magneton. One Thunderbolt takes down Cloyster, and Surf doesn't one-hit KO the Flareon. So now I just kept grinding this over and over again. I was like, I got to the Flareon, it was so close to being able to knock it out. Surely I'm going to get through this with just a few more attempts. No. I grinded it for quite a while, and I decided, you know what? I'm being too stubborn, I just need to take more optional battles. This isn't consistent. So let's try fighting through the Elite Four again and get back to the champion and see how this goes now. We've gotten to level 74. Here, Surf is still not a one-shot on the Sand Slash. We've added 3 levels. We've gotten another damage rounding threshold. It doesn't matter. We do not one-shot on this Sand Slash at this point, meaning we still have to go for a double team followed by a Surf in order to knock it out. And even then, it's a range. It's not guaranteed that we're going to one-shot the Sand Slash here. So I keep kind of grinding this one out just to see, but no, we didn't make any meaningful progress. So it's time to try to fight the Elite Four again and get even more levels to see if we can finally get a point where we can just knock out that Sand Slash. That is the key to this entire run. If you one-shot the Sand Slash, you have a decent chance of beating the rest of the team, and if you don't one-shot the Sand Slash, it's a nightmare. So it's back to Lorelei, back to grinding, and we fight our way through the Elite Four without too much trouble. But now we've got to try to champion again at level 76. Finally, we do one-shot the Sand Slash. Great. But now we have to Body Slam down that Alakazam, and I'm going for the double teams here on the Exeggutor because fortunately it doesn't have any really strong attacks, but Stomp can do decent. But at this point, once I'm able to one-shot the Sand Slash, I think that that's about as much as I need in order to make this reasonably consistent, because from there it's just about double team luck on the rest of the team. So I decided to set up my double teams here on the Alakazam this time, and once we get the double team set up, Body Slam one-shots Alakazam. It's going to be still about a 3-hit KO. We got a good range there on the Exeggutor. We Body Slam down the Magneton. Thunderbolt takes care of Cloyster, and here it's a 2-hit KO on the Flareon, allowing us to finally get through. We're on low health, but we finally got through with Pikachu. But man, oh man, this was terrible, guys. In the end, how many resets did we have, and how many optional battles did we have to add to this one in order to make it consistent? We're talking about 77 optional battles to get to this point. And that's still with 42 resets. So Pikachu, in spite of the fact that it does beat the game on 0 DVs, minimum battles, no TMs, is not even completely consistent at this point, but it's about as close to consistent as we can get, but it still leaves it way down in the B tier. This is a B tier Pokemon with a final score of 75.55. For those of you who care about speed, this wasn't a particularly fast run either, coming in at 1 hour and 37 minutes and 49 seconds, putting it 32nd out of 36 runs that we've done so far. On the final tier list, it ends up just below Golbat, which tells you just how bad this is, and just above Vulpix, which was also a terrible run. So the only Pokemon that Pikachu has technically beaten in my system are HM Mule, Pidgeot, and Vulpix. But there is one question that remains. Can it beat Mewtwo? Pikachu has beaten the champion.
But how many attempts is it going to take in order to beat Mewtwo? You might say, well, that's stupid. Of course you're going to beat Mewtwo. You have Double Team. Aha, you fool. You've forgotten that Mewtwo knows Swift, which means it's going to completely wreck this little Pikachu. I'm sure of it. It's going to be a bloodbath. And you're like, you're 7 levels higher than the Pikachu. Or higher than the Mewtwo, rather. I don't think it's going to matter, guys. I think we're going to get completely wrecked here. But let's get in here and find out because, yeah, our last little chances to look at our little Pikachu, our fat little Pikachu's surf sprite. I love fat Pikachu. Look at that side sprite. He's so fat and little. He's like, I'm surfing, guys. Oh, fat Pikachu was the legend. They made him all thin in modern gens. Come on. Be full-bodied. Be proud. Pikachu was the cutest in the first generation. That little sprite up there in the left where he's all skinny. Nobody wants a skinny Pikachu. Everyone wants a fat Pikachu. At least my generation. I don't know. Tell me in the comments, do you guys like fat Pikachu or skinny Pikachu? For me, I think fat Pikachu was the legend. The legend himself. Like here, he's still fat. He's not as fat as he was in Pokemon Red and Blue, but you know, compare that to that little dancing sprite up there on the left and tell me which one is better. Come on, this one, clearly. Not even a contest. This one has a surfboard, guys. Come on. I wish that I had a moving GIF of a surfing Pikachu. That would be awesome. Somebody make that. So here we go. Time for Mewtwo. And yeah, my strategy is to get one shot by Psychic, clearly. We are still outsped and we get one shot by the Psychic. Okay, he uses Barrier this time, which is good. Swift does decent damage, but he's using Barrier. That's fine. And the critical hit Swift just destroyed Pikachu. Pikachu's like, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna fight for you. It's like the Pokemon anime movie. Pikachu trying to take on Mewtwo, save Ash. Doesn't really work out the way that Pikachu thought. And yeah, we get completely wrecked by Swift. Swift is the entire reason why, at least in Pokemon Yellow, Double Team is not really that good. The rival carries Swift from Rival 5 onward. And by the time you get to the champion, he's got also his... Or what? Rival 6 is the one that has 2 Swift users. But they also added Swift to Aerodactyl on Lance's team. So you just get a lot of spots where you can get hit by Swift. So here we go. We finally take down Mewtwo. We're at 47 resets in the end. So with that being said, Modest Mouse Pikachu beats the entire game at level 77. And he does so with his defense stat is not even over 100. Most Pokemon at this level, every single stat would be over 100. We do not even have a defense stat over 100. That's stupid. I mean, we're 10,000 XP away from getting to level 78, but this is one of the highest XP totals that we've ever had at the end of the game. And I mean, Surf, Thunderbolt, Double Team, Body Slam. Did I get the moveset wrong? Tell me in the comments, guys. But really, I cannot imagine anything that would have made this a better run, quote unquote. You know, Pikachu's just gonna be Pikachu, guys. So anyway, that does it for this one. Hope you enjoyed. Anyway, that does it for this one. Thanks so much, guys. See you in the next one. Later.